answer that sideboard question real quick, since a lot of people have been asking about it, I'm sure. Essentially, because all rulers have access to it, they're unable to be sideboarded because otherwise you would be able to have 5 extra cards in your sideboard.
Yeah,
because you could switch them out. And so that's why, if you remember, Scheherazade couldn't be sideboarded. So she had to be the only ruler. So to allow you to switch rulers, which was something we really wanted to do, so whether it be switching between Arthur and Loki or any of them if you're running only Rune Chance, it gives you the ability to do that. But having those 5 extra cards, if we didn't enforce some other kind of rule, meant that it would be very difficult to enforce the fact that sideboards were only 15 cards.
Yep. Also, I believe both players' records here is 1-0.
Awesome.
Both
so C-Cart won the first round. Nice.
So.
And actually, I was testing a bit.
These are both 0-1s. Both of them at 0. Oh, so they both lost their first round.
Fantastic.
So they're both
make a liar out of
0-1.
me. Fantastic. It's recorded.
It wasn't intentional.
Here, give me a Mr. Destructoid. I have failed. But, so...
Do you want to put that on the screen? On the 2 little player record spots? The 0-1?
As it stands, something interesting, I think, is that Adam is one of those kind of rulers where his power is a little bit hard to recognize at first glance. You have so just for perspective, what is your favorite of his 4 abilities? So gain life, plus 500, rest a resonator, or giving quick cast. What is your favorite?
I think quick cast.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. All right. Jeremy's running away from me. I'm sad. Help me. The lie is recorded forever. So I think in traditional card games, a 15-card sideboard has kind of been the standard in a lot of games, and so I think expanding that to 20 is something it kind of changes the game in a fundamental way that's a little bit dangerous, and so that's why we kind of stuck with the 15-card sideboard. But going back to it now, all right, Jeremy's back.
Okay, I'm back. So my favorite is hands down the fact that he gives runes in your rune area quick cast.
Okay.
And I say that because the idea of Adam being like the one ruler who really kind of wants to splash multicolor runes, because his stone sets him up to do that and stuff like that. There's some really solid runes in other colors that would be really good if it's quick cast. So it's that whole idea of he has a lot of experimentation within the rune deck, and I think that's why I like it so much. Yeah. Now, is that the best part about it? Probably not, but it's also still I just really enjoy it.
No, and that's fine. And I think one of the interesting things is things like Stone of Omniscience gives you the access to have more easy access to more colors, and as the Valhalla sets continue on, we're going to see more and more and more runes that can be splashed. So anyways, let's take a look here. So I think Skuld is in play.
Skuld coming in here
from Julia.
Trying to see what there was a donut. It was Sky Rounds coming in from an energized Sky Round from Zach on turn 1. It got killed by the addition.
Dispel.
Dispel, just destroying that addition real quick.
And that's actually one of those things that when Machines is good, Dispel is so good because there's not a lot of main deck addition hate in the format. And so, without running something like Jubei or something a little bit bigger, that's a straight answer. So, and only costing 1 on the turn 1, that's a great punish. So, why is Zach looking at Adam's flip side? Isn't that against the rule? No, you can check that. Nah, absolutely, that's fine. All right, so we have a second, what it looks to be Sky Round. So that's pretty punishing if that's not dealt with, just because we could potentially see something like a Gwaine come out right away.
But Julio's coming into a lot of will access here, so swinging, he gets to then be at 4 will for the turn, which on turn 3 is potentially huge. Zach has had to take this time to establish the Sky Round, so it could be potentially very good, right? Sky Round, the longer it stays on field, the more effective it is. But if Julio can make really good advantage of this free will that he's getting this turn,
that is something that 4 will in New Valhalla is a lot.
It's a big number.
Yes.
So the 2 cards that came out of that looks like the 2-drop flying that if it dies, draws a card.
Yeah, so Belthor is an angel, so she actually belongs right in Adam's deck, and when she's a great blocker, but she's also 5 damage in the air.
Right.
That machines besides Vivian don't really have a lot of ways to deal with.
Very much.
So he now has blockers for Vivian, and in the meantime, if Zach doesn't get set up too quickly here, he's going to be able to push through some damage early on.
Yeah, which is very important against machines. If you don't, the longer you give machines to be able to kind of establish and set up a protected Lancelot or a Lancelot into a very established board state, can be very devastating.
Yes.
So having this kind of clock, there's the Vivian coming in, gets a free counter. So now I'm trying to remember what she does.
So she's a flying 3/3. Hey, it's almost like I made these cards. So she's a flying 3/3. When another machine comes into play, she gets a +1/+1 counter, and then she can remove 2 +1/+1 counters to rest a target resonator. So now he's going to go up to 3, 1 for the playing of one of
the Sky Round Technician.
Very
so it's
good.
a enter, put a +1/+1 machine on something you control. So Vivian now sitting at 3 +1/+1 counters. Yeah, Skull had swung for 6, so it should be 4,034.
Yep, it is on our screen.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're fine. So now, all right, we're sitting at so this is where it's interesting because Julio has, if he so choose, it might sacrifice it along the way, but he has access to up to 5 will right now.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
And White is infamous for having combat tricks, and so especially in this format, I love all the stuff White can do. And so something interesting here too as well is that Adam is one of the rulers that does gain quite a bit by judgmenting relatively early on.
Yeah.
And he can then kind of use his unused runes to really push forward the game state.
So getting in 5 damage with that first Belthor. So getting down to 29. So there's a moment here where the Vivian is very important, right? Where he can go move to combat. That's the moment where you have to use Vivian to rest stuff. Yes. So maybe it's kind of interesting to me that he didn't do something there, because if I was in the shoes of Julio, I would think my first swing for the turn would be the
skull,
especially the skull. Like especially once Zach said, it's okay to move to combat.
Right.
Like okay, now I can pick an attacker, get a guaranteed production of that will.
I guess he's maybe concerned. I'm not sure what's in Julio's hand right now, and that could be the determiner. But it looks like, okay, we see the quick cast Angel with first strike. I'm looking here. Okay, we see Siegfried. And I'm still looking here. But so something interesting too that.
So then comes another. So letting him go into combat again, getting the bow protection, 6 damage coming in. Zach definitely having to make a choice here. So this is very good in the fact that, like you said, he's at 5 will with a deck known for combat tricks.
Yes.
So I imagine with the free access, just lets it die.
All right.
So I mean, he's got the will production in, so now he can use the 2.
There's 6 damage here on the the
unchased. Let's just kill Vivian right now.
Yeah, just don't deal with it. You can't do anything about it. You can't remove counters to chase anything afterwards. That's a good play.
That was a really smart. That ended up really great because now another 5 damage in from the other Bethor, and he's still set up for 3 will for that quick cast Angel. Yep. So
that was a nice play.
That was a very solid play.
He doesn't. Zach maybe doesn't know, but he also has the ability to bring it back. He has
and Hairnir summon?
Yeah, no, the 3-cost Angel that reanimates. That is totally
the one of Mercy.
A name I can remember because I'm.
We're looking at all of them.
Yeah. Give us
the Air. The Valkyrie of Mercy.
There we go. A Valkyrie of Mercy. So he could buy back the Skald. It looks like he just swung and left the will open. So he's obviously
setting up that quick cast, which I think is probably his best bet at this position, because he's now in a position where we've seen this a lot in different formats. Where if you're a deck that has access to quick cast stuff, I mean Scheherazade, right? Quick cast resonators, you get the most utility out of them when you leave stuff open for your opponent to then tap out.
Yes.
And in this format, it's sure, there's the Lancelot, don't get me wrong, but there's only one other machine on the board right now, so that's not super optimal for him to play a Lancelot at this point. he does have access to. So the one thing is, Zach's rune deck is Scrap and Build, Torrent of Energy, Sealing Scroll, Invitation, and then Massive Growth.
So something interesting to note here is because he's running Hanzo, he cannot run maintenance,
which is really big.
Yes, and so if he swings in for 8 damage, I would assume Julio would take it, just so on the swing back, if he plays his Angel, the first strike will be able to let him take out an 8/8 with no repercussion on his side. And blue doesn't have, if you're running the Hanzo list, doesn't have a lot of sneaky stuff. All right, so
now we're getting a double Sky Rounds,
yep,
which is all your stuff getting big. 2 more.
So now the robots are both sitting at 10/10, which is
so 10 damage coming in. Julio says, "Sure, that's fine. I'll take it."
And I think this might become
pass.
Then this is going to be flying.
This is going to be 18 damage just in the air, which is a lot.
Yeah. And if there is, I mean, if he has any kind of removal or any kind of ways to really punish this, like this could be getting to. So what's interesting is Machines has a lot of threats, but a lot of it's on the ground.
Yep.
And so this flying damage,
it's big. Yeah, its big weakness is definitely flying stuff and J rulers.
Yes. And so realistically, I mean, if we get out a Lancelot, that could be a big turnaround.
That definitely could be. Having already used up Adam Seikart's major rune.
Something interesting we're seeing here is, so he has the Valkyrie that has Eternal on your turn and can also rest stuff down. And I also saw he has Siegfried, which means that he potentially has access to an Awakened Balmung, which I would assume he might be running. And so if the machine player ever does
try to swing in, right,
he could lose the board.
I'm trying to see. There's no pump spell in white.
Not on your turn.
Right.
Correct. There is actually the Blessing of the Sun, which lets you go Alpha Strike and then recover. I don't know if he has access to that.
That actually would be lethal here if he has it.
He does
protected
have
lethal.
If Hanzo has not used his Master Rune, so it would have to be.
Oh right, it'd have to be
double.
So 8 and then 5, taking him down to 11.
So this is actually
5 down to 6.
This is a great place to be because he needs to deal with the Belthors, but if they die, he's also getting more card advantage off of this. And I would assume he's going to play the Angel of Mercy here, or the Valkyrie of Mercy, to get more value on the ground.
Yeah, so he's got a little blocker wall right here. Now he does have access to, like, a Lancelot as a board wipe here.
Yep.
Which is a little.
I don't think Lance has. Will he have, if he comes in? So there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So Lancelot would come in with 3, and then each of the other ones would have 3.
You're right.
So it'd be 9. And
he would have access with the Stone of Dramaturgy.
It's because it's 10, right?
Yep.
10 for a board wipe.
Yep. So okay, he does go for the Master Rune on the Destroy Rested Resonator or J Resonator.
Oh, sure. So the Master Rune cancels there, which is potentially really good if he's potentially playing that board pump spell.
Yes.
Not that he necessarily needs to get a lot of damage, but the position here is if Zach doesn't have a Lancelot this turn to be able to do a board wipe and sets up his board position, 1, he has to deal with those flyers immediately.
Yes.
But then 2, he has to be able to.
Oh, and we see he does have the Lancelot in hand, but in doing this, he's also going to lose a lot of field presence as well.
Exactly.
And any combat damage that the technicians take does remain on them even when the counters are removed. So we're checking the runes here.
Hanzo Ruler Machine main deck, they use it for the Master Rune for Hanzo.
Simply for the Master Rune.
That's pretty much it.
They don't have access to Judgment, so they won't be flipping it over. It's just simply they're running it all in just to be able to prevent any rune that they need.
Right.
And sometimes that can be enough,
and
sometimes it's not.
So the weirdness here, unfortunately for Julio, is that he's used up 3 of his runes before flipping Adam.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing in the fact that there's not going to be necessarily as much. But That doesn't necessarily mean that like we wouldn't see it Adam flip.
And
white just has a lot of good stuff by itself.
Yep.
So a donut drone coming into play here.
All right, it's got its 2 counters. Which now, what's interesting is, although it can only be used during your turn, it can be used during combat. So he can swing if something becomes unblocked. He can then get a little bit crazy with it. Oh, so I see. He's trying to put more things on
to
field.
be able to do the board wipe.
Yep. And not
have to worry about using the Stone of Dramaturgy.
Yep.
So now he has access to... If he does use the stone, you have to pay 1 blue and the stone, if I remember correctly?
No, for Dramaturgy, it's just tap.
So at this point in time, he could tap himself out to put another counter on one of those guys. So he has...
Bless you.
Excuse me. So he has access to 1 hard removal with Lancelot, and then he could just burn the rest to do a board wipe here.
So
Zach's gonna wait.
I was just gonna say, there's no reason to do it yet
because he's in an advantageous position. So there's the Dramaturgy potentially getting tapped here. That is not to say though that I believe there's a quick cast spell that provides Eternal.
Yes, there is,
which is potentially huge. So if he has it right now, it's Ring of Legend. If he has it in his rune deck,
he uses the 10. He blows it.
Okay.
So. And
he probably might have thought maybe he was thinking about it, and then he's going to use the donut drone to get some extra counters on here. So now he has access to 2 spot removals.
Yeah. And
swinging in for 10.
Yep.
No, swinging in, instead of be 6, not 11, so down to 19.
And so now we're in a very interesting position.
And then swinging in with the other one for 12. Oof. So taking him down to 7.
Or is it 2?
7.
Okay.
Down to 7 life, so 7 to 6.
Oh!
Plays the rune.
Oh my god!
The burn just finishes him out right there. 7 damage to the player and takes the game.
That
throw me down.
Nice. Oh man, that feels good.
That was savage.
Oh, and the master rune was flipped, so he had no answers. Oh, jeez, that felt amazing.
I bet he's probably, I don't know if he had it in his hand. He might have top decked it and been like, oh, okay, we're done.
Yeah, like, okay, this game's over. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
That might be the play of the day so far.
So far, anyway.
Oh,
that was,
gosh.
And this is what I'm talking about in the fact that, like, Adam naturally sets himself up for being able to just play some silly stuff.
And this is, you saw Stone of Omniscience just being like, oh, I'm not running red. What are you talking about? Oh, oops, you're dead.
Here's 7 damage. I guess the game's over. That worked out great.
Beautiful. Tapped out. Machines has no response to that kind of spell.
And then just 7 damage to your face and the game is over.
No, Zach did not win, if anyone was asking there. Julio played a... What is the name of that spell? Sorry. It's 7 direct damage either to a player or to a J Resonator. And so he played it off of the Stone of Omniscience to make the red will and actually close the game
Scalding Breath. It is 2-drop rune chant. 7 damage to target player / J-Res. So drew it off the top, right there on the screen. Had the Stone of Omniscience.
Boom.
Completely tapped out. He was only at 6 life, and I guess we're done.
Oh.
So that ended up working out great. And I think Zach is probably thinking at this point, one, didn't see that Lancelot for a really long time, which is arguably what put Julio gave him the time to be able to make those kind of plays.
Yep.
But Zach might be thinking like, okay, I need to deal with these like tiny flyers. Like they're actually a big deal.
Yeah.
Knowing because the problem is here, yes, that got a game for Julio, right? Yep. But now Zach knows about it.
Yes.
So it can't be nearly as much of a surprise.
But what's interesting too is I think so. I've kind of talked about this. Mind games are really relevant in New Valhalla, and so being able to use Adam's Master Rune that couldn't be chased after already getting in damage allowed him to then kind of push even further early game when he had the flying power. And then later on, after Zach spent all of his resources to clear up the field, it was just the game was easy enough to close out.
Right, exactly.
And that's the kind of... So now he needs to make a decision. If early game he wants to play a little bit more defensively and lock the board down using up some of his counters, or if he wants to go full aggressive and just kind of push through.
Salt is a thing. And I can't imagine that, like, Zach played that turn very perfectly in terms of, like, setting the board state up. He got this really established board presence. He had protection for it. Yep. And then to just be like... Yep.
Hey,
okay, the game's over now.
By the way, that's sometimes it happens, and it's beautiful when it works out like that.
Yep, absolutely.
You're kind of...
Well, so the thing is, too, is now having access to that kind of card, right, means that essentially you're just playing a lower life total game.
Yes.
So, like, Zach now has to think, oh, wait, I have to keep myself above 700 now, as opposed to now I'm dead.
Yes.
You know, like, that is actually something that against burn players you have to think about. Like, you have to realize, what am I actually playing at life total wise? You have to be way more like realizing that, because in all of the other colors outside of Adam, or if you're playing against pure burn, like, all of the damage is pretty much going to come from resonators. Yes. So you can see where the damage is coming from, and you can play a little bit better. But, like, I guarantee you that Zach wasn't thinking he was going to get burned by a Scalding Breath.
No, that was not on his mind. And now what's interesting is now Zach has to second guess whether, is there anything else that I don't know about?
Exactly.
That he's
what
playing?
Else could be in there?
Is there a consume? Is there some kind of, oh dear gosh.
Well, there can't be a consume because he's not...
Or, excuse me, I'm not thinking, what's the black 1,000 damage? Sorry, consume is the master rune. He's certainly not running.
Definitely not playing that one.
Oh gosh, I'm terrible at names.
Craving.
Craving.
Your opponent loses 1,000 life. You gain 1,000.
Now that would be obviously super expensive.
Sandstorm.
Sandstorm. There we go.
In the rune deck, so that donut drone is just gone.
So that's.
And then an acolyte. Sandstorm was 0, so like I'm telling you, like
don't sleep on stuff, guys.
Adam was the thing that it was just like he had a lot of weirdness. He had the most weirdness kind of potentially going into the rune deck, and it's just like that was
now
super fun.
Him kind of showing that off. And now what's interesting is he's ramping. Julio's going to have 3 will on turn 4. 4. Excuse me. 4.
If this isn't answered, he'll have 4 on turn 2, which is potentially gigantic, insane.
If he drops something like the Valkyrie or the Angel, that could be a huge tempo swing early that isn't answered. I need to go speak with someone real quick.
Sure.
So I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Looking at his cards here, try to play a rune. It's the ramp for an awakening, so he's gonna play the blue super rare, whose name I can't pronounce. I will mispronounce it terribly. Jorgmunder, the little eater of the worlds. He's doing the awakening here, I believe, to get a growth counter. I think they're talking about growth, and I think he's doing both awakenings, so he has a growth and a gluttony counter. We'll just call it Jorg. Playing a good old Jorg. So like we said, for Julio, going into 4 will on his second turn is a lot. There's a lot of stuff to be able to work with. So this guy has a lot of different stuff that he can make use of. So he's coming in as a 9/9 because he has a growth counter. So that's pretty effective as a creature body, but also the gluttony counter he can remove when he attacks to targeted removal from the game, which is pretty awesome. Sandstorm is a chant rune, so you can actually use it. Looking at his rune deck here. He's going to go ahead and just use the Adam Psychart Master rune here to just kill it. I think that's probably fine. Use of it right now. That having such an early, huge body that also is targeted removal is pretty strong for Zach in the light of trying to establish a more machine-heavy board state. So passing the turn there, not really being able to do much after that, unfortunately. Just to give everyone a heads up, after this round, we will have an extended break because there is going to be a lunch break. We will get some players to talk to or some staff members to be able to talk to, so we're not going to leave you guys hanging for a ton of time. But we are just going to take a little lunch break here. It's just getting to about noon here in Japan. So just wanted to give you guys the heads up on that. So getting the little machines here, the machine who's looking for his screw, and then the machine, the 2-drop machine that puts its +1/+1 on it. So Mechanized Knight and Sky Round Technician were played. So having 2 6/6s. Julio sitting at potentially 5 will, but just passes the turn. So not sure what he has in his hand, potentially to make use of with all of this will. We'll have to see what comes out of it. For all those people who are requesting specific players, we are focusing on trying to show off every ruler at least once. So that will be our kind of preference for player base. So if those are the people who are playing, I'll try my best, but ultimately we want to try to put as many different decks on stream as possible. So Donut Drone coming in and then following it up with a Lancelot. Very, very strong setup here for Zach. He's going to have access to a total of 5 +1/+1 counters, and then Donut Drone being a potential 4 more. You can check standings online as they're being posted. Look in the main Facebook group. I think they're being shared there a lot. We will put records of players that come on stream on the overlay down below. So Julio really staring down a pretty heavy board state right now, having to figure out exactly how he's going to get around it, how he's going to try to play around it. Looks like we're going to be swinging in with the Mechanized Knight for 7 damage. Seeing if it gets through or not. We do have a response to the Mechanized Knight. We're going to see the 8-drop Angel who gets to come in and is going to go ahead and block it. And then 3... attempt to use the Donut Drone to pump up the Mechanized Knight. But before it resolves, we're going to get the... spell to kill. Now that the Donut Drone has kind of been used, we're gonna, while it's still on the chase, the Lance of the Spear of the Valkyries. It's gonna deal 8 damage to the Donut Drone, and it's a chant rune, so then the Master Hanzo rune gets used up here, and so that is gonna cancel it. So no damage is gonna happen here. We aren't gonna see the block, so still with at 40. Then he's going to use the Technician to kill the ramp. So playing Balmung, just hard casting Balmung here to kill those other 2 machines. So Lancelot by himself, like if he doesn't have stuff to back it up, doesn't necessarily do as much. He's just a body. He has to get those +1/+1 counters. So this was actually pretty good for Julio getting all those machines off board. Looks like in we have a Gawain with no access to Sky Round as of yet. Julio definitely has a chance to be able to kind of get the board state back in his favor, and ultimately neither player has taken any damage yet, so he's much better. And having already kind of dealt with one wave of machines backing up a lance, he's in a much better position.
I take it there. So I'm back, guys, and so I take it we just saw Balmung clear the board?
Yep, Balmung did clear the board.
All right, and so how did he tap stuff down?
Just by
blocking. Okay, very good.
Zach Tufford took the time to clear the board state.
Okay.
So Merlin coming in here.
Oof.
This is a little bit of a heavy hit for him. A second Lancelot comes into play.
Yep. All right, so this is going to be a bit of value here. Although I don't think there's anything that can be activated currently, and with Hanzo's kind of limited rune deck, he doesn't really have the maintenance to turn things on.
Well, he will have access to 3 counters, and then swing in for 8 damage here with the lance, finally getting in some damage here down to 32. But because the Lancelot triggers when he comes into play,
yes,
all those machines will get counters. So he has...
But no single thing has a 3. I see what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
It's spread out.
Yeah. All right, so, and now...
Because Lancelot, is it 3 from 1 resonator?
Yeah.
From a resonator. So he doesn't have access to the spot removal of Lance, but he does have access
to slowly building up the 10 where he can. And now I'm interested to see. So what's it look like he's gotten? All right, so we see he has the Angel of Mercy, and I think those are Belthors on the right side of his hand.
I believe so as well.
And then I'm not sure what that card is. Oh, no, almost maybe. All right, so he calls for stone. I don't know about you, and this might be a small thing, but the basic stones in this set are beautiful.
Yeah,
and
hands down, they're probably my favorites. I think the only ones that beat it are the original Valhalla stones, but that was because they came out as promos.
Okay.
So I like having them textless. Okay. It's really nice.
I have actually for my deck, I have the original Valhalla promos, and so I am using those as well. So let's see. All right, so we have Skald coming out.
Belthor and Skald coming out here.
And so what's interesting here is if either of these die, he can bring them back next turn with the heir. So.
Yep. And Zach's in a position right now where he's not too worried about these resonators on board, but also his hand doesn't seem very machine heavy. So the weirdness of machines, though, is there does reach a point where if you get access to... If he doesn't, now that there's a board state, I should say this.
Yes.
If Tufford plays another Merlin here, he can go grab Percival.
Yes.
Bounce the Merlin back to his hand
and start
doing this
digging,
loop. So what you do is the following turn you play Merlin again, you get another Percival, and then you bounce the other Percival back. And now you just have infinite looping Percivals.
Yeah. But once you're at 8 will,
then you can just do it twice, and you just quick cast, bounce it. You just have 2 free removal spells every turn. Which is very, very strong. And that's what we were talking about earlier. Like you can't really give machines the time to set up.
Yeah.
You have to displace them.
If he can't start removing things on the field, which he seriously needs to be able to do, that loop is just going to end up.
So Merlin's swinging in here for 7 damage, gets that 7, takes him down to 25 for Julio.
Yep. So just as a kind of update from the outside world.
Sure, yeah, thank you.
So something interesting is going on. So as many people know, Machines is kind of favored, and many people thought that Machines would be the strongest kind of going in. But the top 16 or so tables, Black and Brunhild are fighting up through the ranks very strong. So I think people are seeing that while while Machines are strong, there is absolutely answers to it. And going all in on that for a larger tournament like this is maybe not always your just simple answer to everything.
Right.
Maybe there's
we
more
talked
to
about it for those of you who watch the Forcible Ruler School Teachers Lounge podcast.
Yes.
Humble brag. Humble.
Hashtag humble brag.
Hashtag slight plug. So if you watch the Ruler School Teachers Lounge podcast, which is myself, Brandon Bremont, Ryan Miles, and Frank Kloster, we do that every week. We had a big conversation about going into this meta, especially with the CR change, Brunhild and Lucifer are still very, very big contenders, and can do a lot of work. So the most represented rulers, I think, are Arthur, Lich, Lucifer, or not Lich. Arthur, Loki,
and Hanzo.
And Lucifer are the 4 biggest. Brunhild only has 9, but it seems like most of them succeeded.
Yes, most of them are actually very high up in the tournament right now. And of course, it is only round 2, but it's impressive to see that they're kind of pushing their way through this army of machines.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've tested it, and I've actually been watching some of the Japanese players practice, and I think the Brunhild deck is generally a black-white deck, and so
trying to see what was just played. That card that he played to like protect his Valkyrie.
That's the protection of the angels. This is the +8/+8 barrier you cannot chase. If you wanted a combat trick, that is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was able to use the skull there to answer one of the Lancelots.
Nice.
Which is really good. So he has to kind of. So the important thing is this turn, the biggest current threat.
Yes.
Is, at this point, the Percival.
Yes.
If he can answer this Percival...
I'm expecting a judgment here, honestly.
Yep. Yeah.
Now he has access to tap down any blockers.
Which is very helpful.
Yes.
The biggest thing here is... And I will note, especially Hanzo machines... have a very hard time dealing with a J ruler.
Yes.
Like, there's no real way for them to deal with the Judgment Hit. And having that 1200 defense for Adam is also very relevant.
And he can grow, too.
Yeah, he can make himself bigger defense-wise.
And I've just in testing, like, once he gets up to, like, 1700 defense, nothing's going through him.
Yeah, for sure.
And I see the Master Rune on Hanzo's already been used.
Yep, it was used to protect it was used in a little earlier exchange with the Lance of the Valkyrie, or Spear of the Valkyrie.
And so now what's cool is, now that Adam's on his J-Ruler side, everything has quick cast. He has no reason to play anything on his turn now.
Exactly. Well, all his runes.
Yeah, his runes.
His creatures eventually need to win the game.
So as it turns out, giving everything quick cast a la a particular ruler that is no longer illegal...
Yeah, it turns out when you
maybe a little bit too much, but and I think something that's interesting is now without access to dual stones, something like Hanzo not being able to judgment you're in the color.
Very relevant. Very relevant. I have seen, I heard some rumors. I haven't seen any deck lists, but I saw some rumors that some sideboarded windstones might have been existing, so that people could say okay, if this game is gonna go along, like maybe even for the Hanzo mirror, to say bring in some extra windstones, acknowledging that some early game I'm gonna have a little bit of a struggle, and that that I kind of have to stabilize, but then I can actually do judgment, flip my Master Rune back down, and say okay, what are you gonna do now?
So. One of the... All right, so that's for 6. Yeah, this is the
Percival
loop. Percival.
Yeah, it's a Percival loop.
Now, the ones...
Oh, response, though.
Oh.
It's going to destroy Skyround in response.
All right.
And he gets to tap down the Lancelot to keep himself protected.
I like it.
That's a pretty solid play.
So one of the interesting things, I think, too, here is that... this game is going to kind of spell out a little bit, I think. But so Zach being at 4,000 to me is actually one of the biggest things. So he can actually take a little bit of a beating. He's not being forced to block to save his life. Where we saw in the last game, he had to deal with the field rather than
being able to establish and go face. Yeah. Yes. So choosing to, rather than go for losing the Sky Round, choosing to go for the pumps of Lancelot rather than the Percival, which I think is fine. Like with this board state right now, there's nothing that I'm like, oh yeah, Percival loop. That's what I want. Yeah. He's pretty well established, and so having the second Lancelot threat is very, very relevant. Yeah. All of those Merlins and the Lancelots, the ones with the 1-drop counters are 7s for attack. Yeah. Percival herself is also very large. Lancelot sitting at a 9 under defense. The 0 cost
because it's free now. Yep. And it has quick cast.
So he gets to bring back the ramp, and he can tap down the Percival so he doesn't take the damage.
Excellent.
So keeping himself protected for a whole turn.
Play. Now, the thing I'm wondering is if he has any runes in his hand and potentially goes into a Balmung, there could be...
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if he can rest down any of that stuff, he can really kind of deal a good amount of damage.
Yeah, that would be huge. So, having another rest to deal with, the other Lancelot, because that would be what I would want to rest down. Yeah. or even just the rune that says rest target J resonator, so he gets 2 rests out of it.
Yep.
Would be huge. Like following it up with a Balmung would be potentially very huge.
And right now,
I'm not sure what's happening. Maybe thinking about.
I don't know if I would swing right now.
He's thinking about whether he wants to swing. I don't think there's a point to swing.
No.
There's really nothing that's going to happen.
Adam blocks it.
And Zach's hand at this point is not super great.
No.
Not so like if he can answer this board state and follow it up with the Balmung, there's the Scalding.
And right now,
for later, not super great.
I don't think
having the Balmung at this point though. So in the upkeep, maybe seeing a quick cast of that rune. He's gonna. He can ramp for 2.
Yep, he's got 2.
And it has quick cast.
Yep. So destroy. All right. So
destroy one of the Lancelots.
Yep. All right. So he's gonna check it.
Uh,
Now I'm gonna guess if he's destroying the rested one, that he may not have the Balmung.
I would imagine that's probably the case. He's going to respond by killing something.
Of course.
Probably kill the Scald at this point.
Yeah. I think you have to.
That's it.
I mean, I'm sure if he had the access to it, he would love to play Odin's Judgment right now.
That's it's the Brunhild's Wrath. It's the 2-drop. But he does get to rest the. Where's the other? Oh no, one of Lancelot's is dead. Right.
Yeah.
My bad. So Balmung here would still be very effective. Obviously, the most effective play would have been if he had that Balmung to be able to go like rest this, also rest this, recover, then
destroy your field.
Yeah. At that point in time, actually, that probably would have been to a position where
Tulio
would have been like, okay, well, I've now killed 3 Lancelots.
Yeah,
I've wiped your board several times.
And that's one thing to recognize is machines. If you can outlast them, there's no graveyard shuffling in the format.
They don't
so
have anything.
Once you burn them out of enough resources, they don't have anything left.
So Jorg, I'm just gonna call him Jorg, is something that Zach is playing. I saw that early on right after you left. Also a very heavy hitting card. Yeah. And there was a Sandstorm in Adam's runes. Yep, it is a chant rune, so he is allowed to play it. There's also that Scalding Breath here.
And I think so.
So I'd probably use the Scalding Breath on the Lance if I'm being perfectly honest. Zach is completely tapped out. There's no way to do it.
Yeah, he has no protection. There's nothing he can do, and I think that's if he destroys that, that's the third.
That's the third. That's 3 Lances down, which is huge.
Yep.
So
that's what we're gonna see.
We're gonna see the Lancelot get killed.
Boom.
And
then he can tap something down here. I hope they.
Or he's gonna gain life. He might choose the gain life. It looks like he chose the gain life. So he's back up to 4,000.
Yep. Hey. Restarting the game here on turn 8.
How much divinity cost is in Julio's rune deck? Let's take a look. So Brunhild's Wrath is 3. Adam's Psychart is 2, so that's 5.
Sandstorm is 1.
Sandstorm is 1, so that's 6. The Dispel is 2. That puts him at 8. And then the other one used was...
Engine. The Summonings.
The Einherjar Summon.
And that is a 2 as well. I know that one off.
That's a 2. So that is 10.
Yeah, so he's got...
Well built. Being able to make use of all 10.
2, 2, 2, 1, 3. That's very well. And remember that when you're playing chant runes from your hand, the divinity cost is irrelevant.
So
Kane,
just as a thing, pure runes, so cards that are just rune, in your rune deck have to color match.
Yes.
If it is a chant/rune, it does not have to color match.
Yes.
Sandstorm is a chant/rune that just happens to be a 0-cost rune in the rune deck.
Yes.
So it's a very good card for Adam.
And
I think he swung in I called for stone with the Adam there.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. The problem is there's still a lot of pressure on Zach's side.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, we do know Zach doesn't have a whole lot of stuff in his hands, but if he starts recycling these Merlins...
So he's going to use...
What is this?
I think this is post upkeep for Zach. He's going to rest... Oh, I think he took damage from Percival. Wait, I'm trying to tell exactly what he did here. So he casts a rune, so he gets a mode from Merlin. Or gets a mode...
Adam,
Yeah, Adam.
To rest Merlin. Oh, I see.
So he's resting...
Oh, I think it's Rest or Resonator. And so then he got the other trigger to rest 2 of them down.
Yeah, but I'm not sure here. And then so 33 swing from the Merlin. So it takes him down to 33.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure how he would have gotten 2 triggers. Maybe he just missed it. Or maybe he did tap down Vivian. He's at least taking 7 damage.
Not Vivian. Percival,
sorry. He's at least tapping down the Percival.
Oh, wait, no, it couldn't have been Bewilder because it was...
Oh, okay. No, it might have been something else.
Yeah,
Hold on. Where did my book go? It's over here.
All right, and I can't see the graveyard, unfortunately, so...
Light of the Moon.
Oh, okay, because it's
you
just
gain barrier chant, so it's
free.
So he just used it just to make it a tap down spell.
Yeah.
So he did take the damage from the Percival, I believe, as well.
Oh, okay.
So he's taken...
Percival's a 9/9, I believe.
So +1, so 10, so he'd be down to 23. Yeah. Oh, we are most definitely about to see a Balmung, I think.
Yeah.
He's using that extra ramp just to tap down the Gawain.
Yeah.
Well, if he does have one, it'd be huge. Doesn't look like he has one in his hand, though, which is real unfortunate.
He might be playing to his outs, then, to just have access to...
Well, the Gawain would have swiftness, which would not be what he wants to do because of the Technician coming into play to give Gawain the counter after the fact. Gawain can be a very devastating card. Looks like a scrapping build coming into play here off the rune deck.
Okay, well, he's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just going to go ahead and get rid of all 8. Look at the next 8 cards.
There you go. Yeah, find something, put it into play.
Might be looking for a lance.
Yeah.
His 4th lance.
That's... And does he find... Or no, we don't have...
Gawain,
okay.
And then he's going to Dramaturgy.
Dramaturgy twice to make it a 10/10 and be able to swing.
And then Julio just accepts that he can't answer it at that point. So game 2 going to Tufford, and we go into game 3.
Excellent. Now, I want to take a look real quick. Do we have Julio's deck list?
We do have Julio's deck list. Okay, I got it. It's right there.
So, bring the camera back down.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So I want to see if there is any Balmung. Yeah, there is. He has 3 of them in the main deck. So that I think was his kind of out there.
Yeah, that position, and I think he just was maybe seeing. Did I draw it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get to it. So I guess it can be done.
So what we're looking at here that that Julio has access to is full, which I don't know if he can ramp it out early enough. It's a 10/10 flyer that can turn into a 12/12 with barrier on the opponent's turn. Orpheal is the one that can tutor up other angels, which can just give you a lot of value. Ayu, the Mysterious Wanderer,
life
gain. I don't think he really wants to go. This is kind of, you need things that affect the board in a strong presence.
Absolutely.
Air, the Bringer of Destruction, is actually, if you can get it early, like if he's on the play here like he is, that might not be the worst thing in the world, because a turn 2 ear that can precision target into resonators and cannot be attacked back is basically a resonator version of a removal spell that can just pick off. Yeah, if that card gets, and with the ability to protect it with Song of the Angels, or excuse me, Blessing of the Angels, that can be obnoxious.
Absolutely.
Set him up for a good game plan. Sigrun, the Valkyrie of Victory, that can help out a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be too big here, only because he doesn't have the Eternal on the opponent's turn, and Lancelot doesn't
really care.
Yeah, and Lancelot has instant speed destruction whenever he wants. And then Light of the Moon, we saw it being used. I don't know if that's the most effective card. Like,
I think he was just kind of using it to maybe set up
stuff down.
This is my one out to this situation. If I draw into a Balmung, then I board wipe. I hit the 4th Lancelot, and then we can be done. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out, which is totally fine.
Yep, and that's the thing. That sometimes, we all play a card game, so sometimes you just don't draw it. Like, had we seen, if he had drawn the Balmung, that would have been a very different game.
Right.
And he had the answer in his deck. So it's not that there was no answers available to him. It's just he wasn't able to get it. And so now maybe even a consideration. So let me ask you a question. This is a little bit silly one, but what do you think about running an invitation and having to pay 4 will, but search your deck for any card? Is that viable or no?
Invitation is...
So blue 1, search your deck for any card, put it in your hand. If it's in your rune deck, it costs 1 less to play, so it becomes blue.
So for Adam, it becomes a 3 cost.
Yes.
Well, he's not... So in this situation, he's not... Well, no, it still costs him... It costs him 5.
Oh, it would cost him 4 in the rune deck because the 1 cost disappears.
So then it's 4.
Yeah.
I think in New Frontiers,
you have more,
I would imagine playing that because you have access to a lot of other things that allow you to set up and protect yourself and tech-wise. In this limited format, I think paying 4 to search for something is a little bit just too slow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also love that is an option that's available. Right. While it may not be the strongest thing in the world, you can run those silver bullets. And
he is playing 3 Siegfried as well. So I guess his options at that point were to draw into Siegfried or Balmung. So he had 6 outs.
So that's not terrible. And especially Siegfried, when he's fully powered up, is very powerful.
Right,
and
for sure.
If you pay the 6 will, you're getting a free Balmung and a 10/10 that prevents the 200 damage every time it does anything. Yep. He has barrier.
There's that 3-drop. There it is.
There we go. If this does not get punished
the Air of
next
Destruction
turn, I honestly think this will snowball the game.
It could very much so, because now Zach has to spend his entire turn trying to answer this.
Yes.
And if he doesn't, then Julio's going to be at 4 will, could do something and kill something.
Yes.
5 will, could do something and kill something.
He's going to pick his board apart. And now he doesn't.
Not having flying is a little bit worse for it. But also the idea of having a 3-drop 8/8 flying precision that can't be attacked is insane. So we can only give white so much.
I was like, you know what? I don't think it needs every ability. And remember
Fluorite 7 disciples. It's fine.
Hey, it's fine. Don't worry. It's fine. So the interesting thing here is even if he plays a Lancelot right now.
It's not going to do anything.
And he has no maintenance because he's not blue,
right.
So he can't protect it. So this is something really... I'm curious what he's going to do here.
There's not a lot of 2-drops that I would see in this position where I'd be like, I want to play this 2-drop.
Yeah, I think if there wasn't the air, we might see a turboed out Lancelot. But now with that play... he's in a really awkward position where anything he plays is going to get picked out pretty quickly.
Right, exactly.
And he's just going to ramp so far
Probably a
ahead.
donut drone here, just to be able to get some extra plus counters out.
And the killer part is if he doesn't use it on his turn, he can't activate it on the opponent's turn.
So it's just
another toy.
Pick it apart.
Yep. This is going to be really interesting. I'm curious what he does here. He can sacrifice it, and then the what is the 1-drop 5/5 there?
It's the if it doesn't have any +1/+1 counters on it, it doesn't recover.
I just can't.
I just take the 5 damage here. He's gonna try to kill it.
Oh, okay. He's gonna go.
So that's I
you have to.
Seeing the donut drone there, I'm like, okay, it's fine.
And the interesting thing here is actually, if he wants to, Engine Hair summons or whatever can bring back Acolyte of the Sun. It is a human.
So he can just bring that ramp back when he needs it.
So he does have access to 2 will if he wants to use his Energize. It's very I can see it's tempting him right now.
He's thinking about it.
Oh yeah. All right. So he sacrifices it. So now it does have protection, so to speak.
Because then it can recover.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be given to recover.
All right, so he's at 3 stones. And so something we do know, he can use the Destroy a Rested Resonator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Sandstorm.
Oh, gosh, what's he doing? Oh, I like
Sandstorm
this play.
Into Scalding, just to get rid of it.
700 and 900 damage. You got nothing for that.
And then another solid 8, so it takes him down to 32.
And this is a good play in 2 ways that it kind of
Zach down to 3,200 here. Yeah,
it uses his will efficiently. We're gonna start getting to the point where Sandstorm's not gonna be super effective.
And the Reanimates rune coming in here.
Yep.
Nice. 150 viewers.
And we also see now that so Zach has taken 800 damage.
Zach's at 3,200.
And so that's gonna be big because any damage he can get early on means
great.
Now he has to legitimately think about blocking.
Right.
And what's super cool here is he has White Will open now on Zach's turn, and you always have to fear that Protection of the Angels if you're playing against white, and it can't be attacked, so there's even if he plays a Gwaine and somehow gives it swiftness, there's no way it's going into that.
Right.
So he's in a very good position. It's kind of exactly what we talked about in the sideboarding. He couldn't ask, and he's got a bunch of 4-drops in his hand,
which he could be able to set up for protected. Protected flip or cast.
Yeah. If I'm just
so tougher choosing to spend his energize here.
I'm assuming a Lancelot, maybe?
No, yeah.
Gwaine.
So we won't have a. He can use the dramaturgy to pump it.
Yep. So turn it into a 9/9, but the angel cannot be attacked.
So he just takes the 9 damage, which he's totally fine with.
Yep.
Goes down to 31. Having some life gain built into your ruler later is always great. He'll get another free 8 damage here because Tufford's tapped out. Yep. So
now, all right. Let me ask you: would you use the destroy a rested?
He has 2 lances in his hand. He has 2 lances of the Valkyrie, or you can just use that.
All right. Yeah. As it turns out, nope. You can't do anything about it.
So. Julio's doing a fantastic job this game.
He's controlling the pace.
Really controlling the pace.
Yeah.
So swinging in for that 8, taking down Tufford to 24. And Tufford knows that as soon as he hits down to 7 life, he's potentially
dead.
Concerned.
Yes.
Like he knows that those Scalding Breaths are in there. Julio playing a total of... Looking at his
4. He's got the 4.
He's got a full play set.
Yeah.
So even now, like... He's now within burn range, like over time, obviously. But the second he gets down to 7 life, like Zach knows, okay, I have to close the game now. Otherwise, I could just be scalded to death.
I see the Balmung, and I think he's running the Spear of Valkyries, which
yes, he is. He's
awesome.
Doing it in the name, which is fantastic.
So he's got 8 direct. He can actually chase a Lancelot's trigger and kill the Lancelot before.
So last game, the Hanzo Master Rune was used to cancel the Spear of the Valkyrie.
Okay.
Because it was potentially it was going to be done in response to a donut drone sack. So he was going to lose 4 counters.
And -4 on that
right,
play
exactly.
Almost. Yeah. So, that's interesting. So now he does still have the Master Rune available this turn. So he has not used it yet. He's at 4 stones. So now I'm curious if he's going to try and play Lance and just power him up, or if he's going to set up the
play a Percival.
Nope.
That's an interesting choice.
No.
He can bounce. He can't bounce.
No,
Percival.
he's just targeting for the sake.
He has to target it, but he can't bounce it back. That's actually pretty great for him.
I'm
just a raw Percival. I think.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it seems a little. I think maybe he was thinking about just like bouncing it back, but that still doesn't seem very good. Yeah. I mean, the 9/9 stat line, right, to deal with the 8/8
is
sure,
solid, but at the same time, I think when you're tapping out with not a whole lot of protection against a deck that has a lot of interaction,
right? That's not very good. Like we could even see a flip here.
Yeah, and he would still have access to 2 will.
Right, and you'd only need 1 to be able to tap something down. Yeah, we're gonna see the Judgment come out here.
Yep. So
now he can just tap down that.
This is big because blue does not have the field right now.
Yeah.
And so he does have that Master Rune, and that.
But even activating it still lets you use Adam's Sight card. So even casting it does something for him.
That's like, this is going to be. This turn is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. If Zach can't set himself up for a much better position, this next turn it is gonna be very not good.
Yes,
very
not good. What eloquent language we're using here on Force of Will's official stream. Very not gooder.
Give me a break.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Looking in Tufford's hand, it looks like he has another Percival, so maybe his thought process is play Percival into Percival to bounce, but that's still paying a lot.
That's a lot of will to just...
The other thing is, he has those 2 Sky Rounds, but at this point, playing those Sky Rounds is too slow.
Yeah.
Like, there's too much threat from Julio on a board state to say, I'm going to play this edition. Yeah. He also knows that there's a chant. He also knows that there's a rune that just immediately deals with 1.
Yeah.
Right? So he's going to play the...
Is that... Oh, that's the +1 counter.
Yep. So it's going to... make the Percival a little bit bigger.
All right. And so...
Sky Round Technician. and then a Lancelot to get some extra counters on here.
All right, now I might
response
chase
to the Lancelot. Yep.
And so we're gonna see probably the Master Rune come out here.
I'm just going to try to use the Spear of the Valkyrie to kill the Lancelot in response to his trigger. And tap down the Percival. Yep. And then the Hanzo is clearly going to be used at this point.
Yeah.
But he has another one in his hand.
Yeah, that's the
thing. Which is huge.
Yeah, he's going to be able to really...
Still gets to tap down the Percival, so he doesn't take any damage this turn. The Lancelot gets to put a couple counters on things, which is not enough to do either board wiping or whatever. Yeah. And at this point in time...
knowing what we know, and actually, I think I saw a Balmung in his hand.
He also has the Scalding Breath there, so he can potentially... I mean, he just needs to get down to 700 damage and then finish the game. Actually, with what's on board right now, Scalding Breath with... so that's 7, 16. That's 23 damage.
Yeah, he can.
So he can just.
What?
That rune is the. Rest.
I think it's.
That's the. Dispel?
Tapping everything.
To gain 1,000 life.
He's setting himself up. I think he's swinging everything.
And then he just swings it in, and Suffer says, "Yeah, I can't take it." He just swings everything in.
All right.
So Adam Sykart beating Hanzo Machines.
Yeah. How about them apples?
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Man, talk about exciting match.
Yeah. I'm gonna kick us over to interview.
Yeah.
So we can.